Good morning, first grade mathematicians. I trust you guys can read the title slide without much trouble to see it says Tuesday, March 30, and the second line talks about first grade math. Now, I have this, this is one of my lights. Woo! This is what I put down when we're looking at papers so that the paper's lit up really well. I have it up here to help me show you a couple of things you're going to need to know to do today's work. So today we're talking about non-standard measuring again, but instead of using those color tiles, you're going to be using the paper clips. So you have a bag of paper clips in your materials bag. Go ahead and get pencil, your book, eraser, and your bag of paper clips from that materials bag. Pause the video if you need to do that. Okay, now I want you to be sure to know a couple of things. The first thing is you might end up measuring something that's longer than the string of paper clips you have. My string of paper clips right here, I just put 3 paper clips on there. You, of course, you have more. You have 20 paper clips. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make this string and then also about how to measure something if you're measuring something that's longer than the 20 paper clips you have. So for example, let's say I am trying to measure how tall my light is here. Sorry, I'm scared to turn it off because it doesn't like to turn back on sometimes. That's why it's glowing on me all weird. So here I am. Actually, let's measure the stem. Here I am with the stem of my light. And you can't see it very well, but I've got the top of that paper clip measured right at the top of the stem. And then here I go down and here's the bottom of my 3rd paper clip. I need more paper clips. All I've got is these 3. So I can count 1, 2, 3, and then I can take these and move them farther down. And do you see, I used my finger to mark where the bottom of them was, where the bottom was. And then now I'm putting my string of paper clips right here where the bottom of the string of paper clips had been. And now I can hold it there and I can keep counting down and keep going like that to kind of use them over and over, just like you might have done yesterday with the color tiles. So that's the first thing about using the string of paper clips. Is when you make your string of paper clips, watch that they're actually end to end. So it's fine if you don't hook them together. Hooking them together might make it easier to measure some things, but if you want to use them separately like you did with the color tiles yesterday, you can use them separately also. If you want to hook them together, do you see how there are 2 loops they could hook onto? There's this inside loop and then there's this outside loop. So this can be a little tricky, but watch if you can and make sure that they don't hook on this inside loop. Do you see how that happens? And then they're kind of overlapping a little bit and they don't really measure how long each is. So if you're hooking them together, try to make sure, this can be a little tricky, but try to make sure that they're actually end to end. Then the other thing is if you're measuring, even if they're end to end when you pull them and stretch them out, if you leave them floppy, of course, they're going to slide back together. So when you're measuring, be sure that you stretch them out. So I'm guessing a lot of you guys hooked your paper clips together while I was talking about all that. And if you did, that's just fine. If you didn't, that's also fine. Let's go ahead and jump into our book. We're going to be going to the next lesson now. So here we are now on lesson 9.4, our next one. And see here, make a non-standard measuring tool. So they're talking about hooking together these paper clips kind of so that, you make a ruler out of them. But we're wanting to, again, make sure that we're starting with these non-standard measuring tools because that helps us to really get stuck in our brain what we're doing. So how do you use a non-standard measuring tool to measure length? That's not really something you're going to answer with words as much as experiencing it. So here you can see, circle the name of the child who measured correctly, Allie. Well, you can imagine, is that the right way to measure this pencil? Or did Sid do it the right way? All right, next page. So you can see here's our purple box. This is where we're really going to look at things to help us know what we're supposed to be doing today. So you're going to make a paperclip measuring tool like this one here. Measure the length of a door. So can you see right there? We probably don't have enough paper clips to use to measure the whole door. So you might need to use that strategy where say we're measuring here the length of this paper, I get these nice, or the width of the paper, I guess. I get these nice and stretched out. And here they are lined up right at the beginning. And now here's the end of them. And I'm going to slide them over. See, this is a little tricky because it's kind of bendy. That helps us understand how handy rulers are that aren't all bendy. But now I can stretch them over. And remember, I had 1, 2, 3 here. So now here's 4, 5, 6. And I can put my finger here for the end and then keep going. So I could say my paper is about 7 paper clips long. Now you have 20 to work with. So see if you can get to how long a door is. This is actually a shelf. But when you're talking about a door, if you want to do how wide it is instead of how long, that's all right. Again, here are the directions. Use real objects and the measuring tool you made. So this is kind of a bulletin board. Maybe your family has, like a little family bulletin board or chalkboard where you put messages back and forth or you make grocery lists. If not, find something else. Maybe you have some kind of desk that you can measure at your house. If you don't have a desk, find something else to measure instead. Put about how many paper clips long it is. Here's a little chalkboard or whiteboard. Maybe you have one, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a clipboard to measure. We sent your folders home. You could measure maybe one of your clipboards. You probably have a window somewhere in your house that you could measure. Some more. Now, an easel. Of course, we have one of those at school. You probably don't have one at home, but you can find something else to measure. And do you see how this is showing you? You're not measuring how wide this one is. You're measuring how tall it is. That can be a little tricky with our bendy floppy paper clips. You might need to ask someone to help you hold the ends of it so that they don't just flop around. Because if you're measuring it with them all floppy, you're not really going to get an accurate measurement the same way you would if they were stretched out. All right, over here, this looks like this might be a folder. So maybe on the other page, you measured how wide the folder is. Now you can measure how high it is. Chairs, you probably have a chair at your house. Filing cabinet. Now this is one where actually when we're doing this at school, I tell several students to work together and hook together their paperclip chains. And then it takes a really long time to count all that. You might have something else you could measure though that's kind of tall like that. Maybe you really want to challenge yourself and measure the refrigerator door or the height of a counter in your kitchen. See what you have that you might be able to measure that's a little bit of a challenge that's kind of high. Then here, he measured his real lunchbox. Ooh, this is more of a hot problem than the one yesterday. He measured the lunchbox, and it was about 10 paper clips long. So of course, we're not measuring that picture, right? That picture is not about 10 paper clips long. About how long is Cody's real pencil? So boys and girls, this is a little bit tricky one because we have to think that's not 10 paper, that's not, 1 paper clip long. This is 10 long. So if this is 10 long, how long is this one? Well, let's see. Here's this. It's a little more than 1 paper clip, right? So if I take this paper clip over here to my pencil's also a little bit more than 1 paper clip long. Now, would I say that that pencil is the same? Let's see. You can decide. Do you think it's the same length as how long this lunchbox is? Is it maybe a little shorter or a little longer? You're going to kind of make a guess for that about how long it would be. If you think it's the same, then it's going to be 10 paper clips long, isn't it? If you think it's a little teeny bit shorter, you might think it's 9 paper clips long. If you think it's a little bit more short than that, maybe it's 8 paper clips long. Maybe you think it's actually a little bit longer than the lunchbox. Maybe then you think it's 11 or 12. You're going to take your very best guess on that. All right, boys and girls, then the very last page here. She thinks Lisa tried to measure the pencil. She thinks the pencil is 5 paper clips long. About how long is the pencil? Now you can do a better measurement than that, right? And you actually don't need to use for this your paper clips. We could, because our paper clips are about the same length as these paper clips. So you could use your paper clips if you want to, but you could also take a look at this and say, there's about a half a paper clip there that's not actually used. Over here's another half a paper clip that's not actually used. If I take off a half here and a half here, or maybe if I look at this and I slide these paper clips down, you can measure it with your actual paper clips if you want to. But you could also try to imagine what it might be if they slid around. But you can see she didn't measure this correctly, did she? Because her paper clip here, it didn't line up with the end of the pencil right here. So you go ahead and give it a more accurate measurement. Here's our test prep. Which string is about 3 paper clips long? So you can use a string of 10 paper clips and just look at the first 3 of them to see which one might be 3 paper clips long. First graders, that's all we're doing in your math books for today. If you want to do the extra video that comes after this one, you can. You'll need blank paper that you have in your supplies from me. You'll need your crayons. We're going to start making the picture that will help us to be all ready for the clock we're going to make tomorrow. Until later, I'll see you then. Bye.